So we talked about what makes money good. Not all digital assets are money, and not all of them are securities. And some of them say they have utility. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Some of them are protocol. Some of them are in none of these categories. So to analyze a digital asset, you need to first figure out what it is. To say all tokens are bad is not sensible in a world of securities tokens, because securities are judged on what the terms of the agreement are, not whether they're a token or not. Uh, so you need to first look at what it is, what makes agreements good, as we mentioned, and remember that it is not cryptocurrency. Digital assets are not cryptocurrency. They may be good, they may be bad. You really need to look at what the terms are, if there is an agreement at all, and what you're getting. And in many cases, I certainly agree, especially the last batch of the uh, ICOs, generally called ICOs, there was a lot of very, very low quality investments. I've talked about that many times. So as we mentioned in the last video, the properties of money are different than securities and different than usable items, different than collectibles, different than donations to foundations. A lot of ICOs, a lot of other investments in tokens are any of those categories. Some of them are, the word is used often, maybe too much, scams. Some of them really are scams. Some of them are fraud. Some of them are very experimental. Some of them are donations to foundations, it says right in the term. Some of them are securities. Some of them are illegally offered securities. Some of them really are usable items. Some of them are collectibles. Some of them are currency, and some of them are securities. So that's important. What are you looking at? The properties of money are these things that we mentioned in the last video. Is it fungible, durable, portable, uniform? Is it limited in supply? Is it accepted around the world? Can you divide it? Yes. You know that's why stones were not good money, particularly those giant stones. They weren't very divisible. They weren't very portable. Being able to carry it is useful. Gold is uniform. That's why gold is good. Bitcoin, you notice, meets it in a lot of these things. We know the supply is exactly limited. We know pretty much exactly what it'll be. We know it's durable. It's very hard to, um, wreck a Bitcoin. You have to kind of purposely or mistakenly burn the address or something like that. And when that does happen, that actually helps the other holders. It's like sort of the effect of dumping gold into the one of the deep trenches or something like that. It has to be fungible. One Bitcoin has to be the same all over the world. A dollar in New Hampshire is the same as a dollar in Puerto Rico or India. So these are the properties of money, but not all digital assets are money. As I mentioned, there are all kinds of these things. They could be usable. They could really be utility coins, or maybe they're just utility coins, and your judgment is that they don't have utility. Well, that then you still place a value on that. That value might be a penny. It might be zero, but it still has a value, and you look at it based on what it is. So to do that, I made this acronym. Basically, this is free and open source. You can use this. You can put it on a hedge fund. You can keep it, change it, alter it, make a newsletter out of it, whatever you want. It's yours. Open source means yours. It's like Bitcoin. It's not mine. You don't have to say, hey, thanks. Can I use it for? No, you use it. Just use it. And the more you use it, just take it out for a spin. Do something with it. I mean, it's only an acronym and a couple other little supporting things. It's not exactly Bitcoin, but it is open source, and open source is cool because people can build on it. And already this has been built on. I just gave this away because I don't have the time to. You can make a nice business out of it. You could definitely make $100,000 a year business out of this, I believe. Writing a newsletter, doing different things, running things through. It's a decent analysis method. It's no big deal, but sometimes simple is good. So anyway, this is just things to think about when you're looking at a digital asset. You say, what is the security of it? And this is the acronym I'm going down right now, SpaceSuit X. What's the security? How secure is the blockchain? So if it's a counterparty asset on Bitcoin, that's pretty secure. That's a very secure blockchain. That's about as secure as we can get right now. The most secure, in my opinion, as of right now. There are other blockchains that would argue a lot of security, and there's others that you just got to make that judgment. The market's going to make that judgment. The key one that was missing with a lot of ICOs is the next one, P, participation. What are you getting? Okay, so a lot of them would say, hey, we have a great idea. We're going to do whatever. And here's our token. Well, what was the connect with that? If the idea works, or if their idea works, they'd say something like, here's this great idea for this kind of video game. It's a wonderful idea, wonderful team. But where's the connect? What do you get? How do you make something from your token? A lot of that would be vague, or economics that maybe weren't thought through. Oh, well, you'll burn the token to get our video game or whatever. And you want to think about what you're exactly getting. In some cases, you're getting a donation. You really want to think about the economics. What's nice about securities is that if they're done right, it will say you are getting 1% of this company. And then that's very, very different, because then you make a judgment based on risk that's been done for hundreds of years. Is this company good? Is it not? Whatever. Next, accounting and legal. What are the metrics and compliance for this? Um, you know, how many coins, tokens are outstanding? What do you get in return? Is it legal? That is important, even if you're an anarchist. But if you're putting money in something, you have to consider the risk that it could be destroyed if it's illegal, or be certainly harmed if something is legally compliant. You make that judgment. You make that judgment. If you're an institutional investor, you sort of have to consider that judgment. Who's the community, the management, the team? Community isn't a great word, but this is an acronym. Who's building it? Who's behind it? Are there developers? Are they volunteer? Why are they doing this? What are the economics behind it? These kind of things. Earnings. This is interesting. What is it going to earn? Show me the money. That is important in the real world. A lot of times people forget the root of commerce. People buy and sell stuff. Sometimes they buy stupid things, but commerce is commerce. A lot of these other grandiose ideas just don't really work because they don't have commerce behind them. So what's it going to earn? What's it going to transact? What is it? The other S, supply and demand. Is the supply fixed or limited? Is the supply, how is the supply decided? Is it a central bank? Is it decided like Bitcoin? Is it fixed? Is it fixed? Is it variable? Supply is really important, because scarcity is important for both currencies, but also for a lot of other things. You don't typically have a stock that just keeps issuing new shares. That wouldn't be effective. They could, but you're diluting everybody else, and it has the same problem of a currency that issues unlimited supply. And that leads to financial ruin. So supply and demand. And what's the demand? Do people want this? Are they using it? Does it have value? Is it tied to something? And that ties into some of these other things. Usability. What is it going to be used for? So if it's a stock that where you're investing in a company, then you say, well, what's the business? Is it Apple that sells phones? Okay, that's a business I understand. If I have terms that meet these other things, that should have value. If it's some kind of weird project or ICO or sort of thing, then you have to say, what is it used for? It's a harder barrier to say, what is this used for? How is this going to be used? Next thing, is there any industry behind it? Like it or not, industry is part of the world. Big companies, corporations, if they're backing something, it may have a chance of working. Certainly they back a lot of stupid things, but eventually the markets figured out that the bad mistakes fail, and eventually the smarter companies win out. I think there's a lot of smart companies in this space. There's a lot of ones that are making tragic errors, but I think the smart ones are going to continue to do well as this industry evolves. So anyway, either way, looking at it, and especially if you get more into this company kind of thing, if you're actually out there selling a product, who's buying? Who wants it? Is it working? Is the industry interested in it? And our industry as well. If there's a whole bunch of smart and interesting companies that are backing something, that's pretty cool. Technicals. What are the technicals? Will it work? If it's a token, that's straightforward. Is the token secure? Is it on a secure chain? This is like a securities token. But if it's something like a protocol or its own blockchain or something, you have to say, what are the technical details? How does it work? Will it work? Has it been tested? And especially if you're putting money on that blockchain, you really want to test it. You know, how is this worked under attack? What are the vectors? What's going to happen if it does happen? Bitcoin, that's pretty pretty proven over time. And then the X factor. This is usually when it's your friend or your cousin or a pitch or whatever. What other cool factors are? Okay, it's going to raise people from the dead, whatever. All kinds of crazy plans out there. And I don't take any problem with crazy as long as you consider that risk into your portfolio. There's a lot of crazy ideas. You should definitely recognize that with almost anything in crypto, even Bitcoin, you could lose everything that you put in. Even if we're right about Bitcoin meeting these properties of money, it may not work because maybe the world is so brainwashed that they don't care, or maybe the state makes such a setback that it becomes impractical over decades or something. Who knows? I don't want to. You have to think adversarially in this. So here's a more advanced version of this SpaceSuit X. You can go to the website. Again, this is free. Copy it, throw it as a little widget tool, make it on your website, whatever. It's free. It's yours. But you put in the exact amount between 0 and 10 for each of these scores. What do you think the security is? Okay, Bitcoin, I think that's a 9 on security. Participation, Ethereum, that's got pretty good participation. I'll give that a 9. Accounting and legal, the Gemini dollar, I'll give that probably a 8 or 9 on accounting and legal. They tend to take those things seriously. Community management, Dogecoin, I'll give that a 9. Earnings, and so on. So you go through these things, and I'm doing it for different coins as an example, but you would do it for one coin or one asset, and you say, what is this? Why do I dislike this? And it's not just for investing. It's what is this? Is this a quality project or not? What is the security? What is the use case? What is the study? What is this going to be? So that's just some things to think about when you're looking at digital assets and how they work, and thinking about what they are, categorizing them before you judge what the value may be, or what the value of either economically or participation in that project. Thanks.